Hey everybody. So I want to talk about the Montreal Canadiens because Montreal has been playing good hockey the last few games, and they're a team that is looking more and more like a playoff team. They've hung around a lot longer than I thought they would. They've been a lot better this season than I thought they would, and now they are right in the thick of it as far as the Atlantic Division goes. Um, so Montreal is sitting right now at with a record of 26, 17, and 5, good for 57 points. They're tied with Boston points wise. They're in fourth in the division in the first wild card spot in the East because they've played more games than Boston. So Boston has games in hand, owns the tiebreaker. But Montreal's won three in a row. They beat Boston in Boston the other night on Monday, and they absolutely thrashed Florida last night, 5-1. So they're playing good hockey, and they're honestly a pretty good looking team. Getting Shea Weber back has been huge for their defense. Offensively, they're getting really good production from guys like Max Domi, Brendan Gallagher. Thomas Tatar is having a great season. They're getting enough scoring up front. I think they're getting more scoring than I ever thought they would from their group up front. They're playing better defense, certainly, than I thought they would. And Carey Price, at times, has looked like the old Carey Price this season. He's had some down stretches where he hasn't been that great, but he's also had some really, really good stretches where he looked like prime Carey Price. I think one of the best examples of that is in Boston on Monday night. Carey Price stole that game for Montreal. Boston outshot Montreal 17-4 in the third period and had every reason to win that game. But Price absolutely stood on his head for the entire period, held Boston to only one goal, which tied the game at 2-2, and then Montreal went on to win in overtime. So that again, that was a vintage Carey Price performance, an old Carey Price performance, and he's looked really, really good at times this year. So when you look at the playoff picture in the Atlantic Division, you have Tampa Bay, who is absolutely running away with the whole league. Then you have Toronto at 58 points, Boston at 57 points, Montreal at 57 points, and Buffalo at 52 points. If Buffalo wants to make the playoffs, they need to get their act together real quick because Montreal is going to bury them if they don't turn it around. And the way that the Canadiens are playing right now, I could easily see them making the playoffs as a wild card team. I don't think they'll catch Boston or Toronto. I think Boston could catch Toronto, although I wouldn't necessarily bet on that. But I think your top three teams in that division are Tampa Bay, Toronto, Boston, and that's how it's going to finish. The wild card spot, you have Pittsburgh and the New York Islanders neck and neck in the Metro, so it looks like only one Atlantic team is going to get in the wild card. So it's going to come down to Montreal versus Buffalo. I at least that's what I believe. And right now, I think Montreal has the upper hand. I know earlier in the season I was very high on Buffalo, but they've kind of flatlined and dipped back a little bit the second part of this season so far. So right now, if I was betting, I would give the upper hand to Montreal in making the playoffs over the Sabres. They look a lot better than I thought they would this year, and they're playing really good hockey. And last year looks like it was just a really, really bad year, and they dealt with it. They had the lousy year. They got a really good draft pick out of it with Kotkaniemi. And now it seems like they're back and look like a playoff team again. So while they're certainly not a real Stanley Cup threat, I don't think, they certainly look like they could without a doubt be a playoff team. So we'll have to see how the rest of the season plays out. Because again, if Buffalo just goes and rips off 8 straight wins or something, and Montreal goes maybe 3-7 over that stretch, over a 10-game stretch, then you're looking at Buffalo possibly taking that wild card spot back. So nothing is guaranteed. There's still a ton of hockey to be played. But I just want to say that right now Montreal's really impressed me with what they've been able to do this season, how they've looked over the last few games. especially that big win in Boston and then thrashing Florida last night. Um, I'm really impressed with the Canadiens this year, and I think they have a lot of good things going for them. Their defense again has been much better than I thought it would be. Carey Price has improved his play, and they're getting more goal scoring and more offense from their forward group than I ever thought they would. So I think I might have been a little too down on Montreal at the start of this season after how bad last year was. And this is a team that really is starting to convince me that they're going to make the playoffs this year. They've just never gone away at all this season. They've had some tough stretches, but they've never gone away. They've never fully buried themselves to the point where they couldn't bounce back, and they've bounced back every time. And so they're on a bit of a hot stretch now, and if they can continue that over the next 3 to 5 games, then they're really going to solidify themselves as a playoff team and push Boston and Toronto and really look into maybe taking one of those spots in the top 3. Although I think when it comes down to it at the end of the season, I think Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Boston are pretty much solidified as your top 3. But that wild card spot is wide open, and Montreal looks like they have more than enough to take it. So we'll see what they do the rest of the season, but I'm really impressed with Montreal this year, and especially how they've looked lately. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. Keep spreading the... if you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.